कृष्ण गोविंद नारायण हरे कृष्ण कृष्ण मुकुंद जनार्दन कृष्ण कृष्ण मुकुंद जनार्दन कृष्ण गोविंद नारायण हरे कृष्ण गोविंद नारायण हरे अच्युतानंद गोविंद माधव अच्युतानंद गोविंद माधव सच्चिदानंद नारायण हरे सच्चिदानंद नारायण हरे सीतापते राम राधापते कृष्ण सीतापते राम राधापते कृष्ण श्री रुक्मिणी सत्यभामापते श्री रुक्मिणी सत्यभामापते वाणीपते ब्रह्मन् गौरीपते शंभो वाणीपते ब्रह्मन् गौरीपते शंभो लक्ष्मीपते श्रीमन्नारायण लक्ष्मीपते श्रीमन्नारायण लक्ष्मीपते श्रीमन्नारायण गोविंद माधव गोपाल केशव गोविंद माधव गोपाल केशव नरसिंहाच्युत नारायण नरसिंहाच्युत नारायण गोविंद माधव गोपाल केशव गोविंद माधव गोपाल केशव नरसिंहाच्युत नारायण नरसिंहाच्युत नारायण दशरथनन्दन सीतामनोहर दशरथनन्दन सीतामनोहर यादव संहार दयानिधे यादव संहार दयानिधे राम राघव राजीवलोचन राम राघव राजीवलोचन कामितफलदा करिवरदा राम राघव राजीवलोचन कामितफलदा करिवरदा कृष्ण केशव Ambujalochana Krishna Keshava Ambujalochana Majika Balaga Yeduvaraga Rama Raghava Rajivalochana Kamita Balaga Karivaraga Hare Ram Gopalam Bhaja Govindam Mama Jeevanam 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 Govinda Nama Sankirtanam
Govinda.
Govinda Hare Hare
Namah Parvati
Namah
Pade.
Parvati Padaye
Har Har Mahadev.
Sri Anjaneya Swami Ki
Jai.
Welcome for November Satsang. I request Apurvi to hand over the flower bouquet to Vivekji.
Please put them beside him. Should I begin? Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurudeva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. When Sri Lakshmana found out that Bhagavan Rama was to go to the forest for 14 years, then he came to meet Bhagavan Rama. And Bhagavan Rama knew that he didn't come to ask him permission to go to the forest, that Sri Lakshmana was going to come anyways. So what Bhagavan Rama said was, go tell your mother that you're coming with me. So Sri Lakshmana goes to Mother Sumitra and says, Lord Rama is going to the forest for 14 years and I'm going with him. And she says, good, because if you stayed here, you would have left Ayodhya. Because wherever Lord Rama is, that is where Ayodhya is. So by you going with him, you're actually serving Ayodhya. And how true this is, when Lord Rama actually left, everyone in Ayodhya left with him. Because he is Ayodhya. Without him, there is nothing. Without a brain, then this is just a shell. I may be alive, but am I really alive? And she says that if you stayed here, then you would be leaving your mother. Because now Mother Sita is your mother. And you should serve your mother by being in the forest with her and taking care of her needs. And that's such a humbling message. Imagine a mother-in-law saying that this is your mother. A mother saying this is your mother now. It's a truly humbling thought that's being shared. She says, serve your mother and father day and night, and let nothing come between you and your service of them. Let no enemy come, and these enemies may even come in your dreams. And when Sri Lakshmana heard this, his mother saying this, he said, if that's the case, then I'm not going to sleep while I'm with Lord Rama and Mother Sita. So for 14 years, while they were in the forest, Sri Lakshmana did not sleep. In case an enemy came into his mind and prevented him from serving Ayodhya, serving his mother. We have many enemies, and we tend to call them the IRS. We tend to call them cold weather. We tend to give them names as well. I know I've shared this many times, and it makes me laugh, so I'm going to say it anyways. I was actually over here during a summer camp, and I was teaching our Balavira students about the Chinmanishan pledge. And I had asked some of the students, the younger class, who are your enemies? And I wanted them to say, you know, anger is my enemy, or jealousy is my enemy. And one little girl puts her hand up and says, Deepak, Priya, and she starts listing all of these names. This is what we tend to do. We tend to associate our enemies as being outside, but our enemies are actually inside. In our scriptures, the word Ari means enemy, is someone who constantly torments us. The weather torments us sometimes, especially not tonight. It's 20 degrees Celsius is out right now. The IRS torments us in February and March and half of April. But enemies like stress, they're always with us. Fear, those are always tormenting us. Judgment, meaning either we're judging someone or someone's judging us. These enemies are there all the time, poking at us, teasing us, making us feel incomplete. And a strong expression of this is our inability to go to sleep and our inability to wake up. And I know some people have biological reasons for why it's hard for them to sleep or to wake up. But for most of us, it's not biological, it's psychological, why we can't sleep and why we can't wake up. And more and more people that I meet, they're suffering from this enemy. And not just older people, but middle-aged people and younger people too. This enemy. This evening, we are going to be exploring a special subject, and I say it's special because it's so relatable, which we've entitled as a Ladder of Fall. This is a special section of Srimad Bhagavad Gita's chapter 2. So at the beginning of chapter 2, Lord Krishna tells Prince Arjuna that you're acting, and he uses a lot of harsh words, which I'm not going to share with all of you. And this hits Arjuna straight in the heart. And finally, he puts his weapon down, he sits down and says, not only will I not fight, I will not speak either. And for some people, that's a blessing, right? Some people talk so much that when they stop talking, thank you. So actually for Lord Krishna, he was experiencing the same, that Arjuna's going on and on and on about why he shouldn't fight. Lord Krishna doesn't have the chance to say anything. But finally, Arjuna stops talking And Lord Krishna begins in Shloka 11 of chapter 2. And he goes on to share all of this very subtle knowledge. And finally, he ends chapter 2 by saying, if you can live what I've taught you, these will be your characteristics. Contentment, fearlessness, independence, etc., etc. These are called the Sthita Prajna Lakshanas. The characteristics of someone whose wisdom is firm. Our wisdom is firm too, but for short periods of time. You know when you put super glue on something, and if you move it right away, it's a little bit sticky, but then it moves. But once it's stuck, then it's stuck. That's like a master. So in this section of shlokas, Lord Krishna shares in shloka 62 and 63, what happens to you and I when we do this and how we slowly fall down. Sometimes slow, sometimes fast. And why he shares this ladder of fall? To teach us that a master doesn't fall down this ladder. We fall down this ladder. And if we know how we fall down, we can do something about it. Now, as we explore this subject, as I said, it's very relatable. We will think, yes, this is what we go through, and that person goes through it, and that person goes through it, and this person goes through it, and this person goes through it. It's normal. But just because something is regular doesn't make it normal. If everyone gets the flu, is the flu good for our health? If everyone gets cancer, is that normal then? I often ask groups of people, in the last week, how many of you have experienced some sort of stress in your life? By show of hands. Some sort of stress in your life in the last week. So even the young people in this room, they have their hands up. So we all have our hands up and we're looking at each other. Yeah, he has stress and he has stress and that person has stress. So yeah, I have stress too. And we think it's normal because we're looking at each other. Just because we're all suffering from stress does not make it normal. If it was normal, it would contribute to our health, but it doesn't. This ladder of fall is presented in such a beautiful way, in such a succinct way, and not just this ladder of fall, all of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. This scripture was written millennia ago, and that's what anthropologists say. We know that it's beyond time. And now here we are in 2013, at the end of 2013, and still we're studying this subject. Why? Srimad Bhagavad Gita is a dialogue that's happening inside. It is the intellect that is teaching the mind. And that's why when we pick up the scripture, wherever it says Prince Arjuna, we should insert my mind. Wherever there's Lord Krishna, we should write my intellect. My intellect is trying to raise my mind. And what is our mind usually doing? Trying to bring down our intellect. See, right now we had two types of sweets. We had samai and we had payasam. And my intellect is saying, hey, Vivek, you go to a lot of people's homes for Bhiksha, you eat a lot of sweets, just have a little bit. My mind is saying, Vivek, you go to a lot of people's homes and you eat a lot of Bhiksha, enjoy yourself. Make them happy, eat more. See, the mind is trying to pull the intellect down. The intellect is trying to pull the mind up. And this struggle is going on. This is what's happening with Prince Arjuna, the Pandavas, the Kauravas, etc., etc. And how beautifully Ved-Vyasa has shared this through Gita. Do you all know what the word Upanishad means? Upa means near. Ni means below. Shad means sit. Sit near and below. And how beautiful our Chinmaya Mission Sanjeevani is. That's what's happening here. When you go to a typical university lecture hall, the teacher's on the bottom and the students are on top. Why? And the students start to think that I pay your salary, you better do a good job. Let me sleep if I want to. But sit near and below. On that note, next time I'm here will be in January. And I shared at the retreat. Slowly, I'm going to start turning levers here at Chinmaya Mission in Pittsburgh, tightening certain screws. One of those foods I'm going to tighten is that everyone has to sit in the front. Okay? And I'll tell you why. When I went to Sandeepani, I had finished business school and I was doing commercial real estate for a few years. And then I moved to India. And I went in with the same business school attitude, sit as far back from the teacher as possible. That way they don't know that you're not paying attention. So I went in with this attitude. I sat beside the speaker, so at least I could hear something. And I'd sit in the back and I'd stretch my legs out and pretend to pay attention. After a couple of months, I just had this idea as I was walking back from the temple to the lecture hall. Let me try sitting near the front. Let's see if it makes a difference. So I sat in the second row. It's dangerous to sit in the first row because then if you move your legs, the teacher can see you. But in the second row, you can kind of move your legs and they won't know that you're moving around. And it was a completely different experience. After I sat in that second row, I never left that second row. Because in an objective science, you don't need to be close to the teacher. In a subjective science, one does need to be close to the teacher to see one's eyes and movement, expression, and so on. So, my point is that Lord Krishna, the mind keeps tricking the intellect to come down, the intellect is trying to pull the mind up. This is happening constantly. And Vedvyasa, who compiled all of the Vedas, the Upanishads, whenever we think of Upanishad, we think of someone living in an ashram, like I just told you about. Everyone's wearing their dhotis and kurtas, and the Himalayas in the background, and the water is flowing, and there's deer that are running around, and everyone is so focused. How does that relate to you and I when we're driving on the 76 and there's construction going on? Or, the bank jacks up their user fees and, we try to argue with them, but what choice do we have? Etc., etc. So what Vedvyasa did was he took the same message of the Upanishads, but he presented it in the context of Gita because we can relate to it. There's stress, there's strife, there's anger, there's frustration, there's family feuds. Isn't that our life? And when we can relate to it, we can be moved by it. But remember, this is all context for the content. The mind and intellect are pulling at each other. Right now we keep falling, but Lord Krishna is trying to lift us. I'm giving a lot of background to the ladder of fall, so we take this matter seriously. Otherwise, it's very poetic, the ladder of fall, and you can make a nice Chinmay Mission t-shirt about it and wear it around and so on, but that's all, it'll just be a t-shirt. But if we understand the context fully, we will be moved by the message. And the more that I study Swami Chinmayananda's writings and teachings, he was the best at sharing the context of that teaching. He was a master, we call it storytelling, but really it's a context with which he presented that message. Like getting married to someone, you can easily just write a note and say, I love you. But how much effort people put into that context of sharing that message so that experience is remembered forever. Same message, but what is the context? It is winter time, and so we all go on our yatras during this time. I'm leading a group of young adults on a yatra. There's some other people who are going to various yatras. So we leave here in Pittsburgh and we fly to New York or Detroit or whatever, and then we go to Europe and we land in Mumbai or Ahmedabad or Delhi, wherever it is. And we've packed minimally because we're going to Haridwar, we're going to Rishikesh, we're going to Sindhbari, we're going to Kerala. And as we get to the spot where the car leaves us off, and we can see the temple is many kilometers up ahead, or we have to climb somewhere, and we start our hike. And initially we're very tired, but we're focused. I came all the way here from Pittsburgh to go to Vaishno Devi. And I'm hiking. And then what do I see to my right? Food vendor, dhaba. I haven't eaten at a dhaba for a full year. I should stop here and have some food. So I sit there, and one cup of chai turns into chai and dosa, and then chana bhatura, and I eat a little while over there. So 1 hour has passed. So now I'm feeling full, but Vaishno Devi. And I go some more, and then I look to my left, and what's happening over there? Churi vendor. Buy churis for Devi, buy churis for your Devis at home too. So I stop there and I go through all of those and make sure none are broken and the glass ones and so on. So now another hour has passed. And slowly this happens, and what is lost? Vaishno Devi is lost then. The whole yatra has turned into tourism. You want to do it to Vaishno Devi, but you're acting like you're in Niagara Falls, right? Let's just eat and stay at a nice hotel and so on and so forth. Why we do this when we go on yatras is we believe that dhaba, that churi vendor, etc., will bring me more fulfillment than seeing Devi. The same happens in our day-to-day affairs. Our responsibilities as mothers, as children, as workers, as sevaks, as sevikas, etc. Our responsibilities tend not to be flashy. And while we're engaged in our responsibilities, we think, hey, if I go over there, I'll be happier. If I have this, I'll be happier. If I do that, I'll be happier. And specifically, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa calls them the 3 Ks. What are they? Kamini, Kanchana, and Kirti. Kamini technically means woman, but it means the desire for flesh. It is a bodily desire that lusts towards another being. More subtle than that is Kanchana. Kanchana means gold, the thirst for wealth. That is a mental desire, inclination. And Kirti, the most subtle, the most dangerous, is for name. And that is an intellectual thirst. So Kamini, Kanchana, Kirti. Body, mind, intellect. Pleasure, possessions, position. Here are my responsibilities, like I said, as mothers, fathers, students, etc., etc. But I get lost in these thirsts. In our scriptures, we call them the Ashans. That is Putreshana, Vitteshana, and Lokeshana. And we have lost in all of this. This is how Lord Krishna presents these teachings in Shloka 62 and 63. So let us begin with this ladder of fall. We begin neutral, okay? And there's 8 rungs. So try to remember these rungs. So here you and I are totally neutral. The mind is in its natural state. So the mind is going towards its responsibilities, but then it gets distracted. First rung. Unconscious thinking. Like when we go to a mall, there's a lot of malls in Pittsburgh, and when it's cold outside and we can't go for walks outside, so we go for walks in the mall. And as we walk by those shops, what happens? I'm supposed to be walking, but unconsciously my mind goes. The latest Michael Kors purse, Michael Kors, that's his name, right? Or the new iPhone 5SC, because it has color. That is way different than the iPhone 5S, right? So unconsciously, instead of focusing on walking, my mind gets distracted. First rung. When the mind gets distracted in whatever channel, then it tends to fall one more rung, which is attachment. Now that I've seen this new phone, now that I've seen this new TV, I think I'll be happier with it rather than without it. Again, I'm projecting. I believe that this will bring me more fulfillment than just going for that walk. So the second rung is attachment. What was the first rung? Distraction. Second rung? Attachment. And where is this happening? Not outside. That phone doesn't care whose hand it's in. This is happening within. So neutral, distraction, attachment. Attachment then devolves into desire. Now, without that, I can't be happy. See the difference? With attachment, I think this will make me happier. With desire, I can't be happy without it. So now, going away from the walk, now all I'm thinking about is how I'm going to get this. As soon as I'm going to take my card and pull out money from the ATM, or as soon as the store opens, I'm going to buy it online, whatever it is. Desire. Distraction, attachment, desire is the first three falls. The fourth fall is anger. Because most likely, I'm not going to get that phone. Because I don't have enough money, or I can't buy it at that time. So anger kicks in. This is a fourth. And don't we all experience this? Distraction, attachment, desire. Because I can't be happy without it. And now that I can't have it, I get angry. Whenever you and I are not happy, we tend to project the cause for that outside. That is that anger. Anger then devolves further. We're not done. We're only on step 4. That's only half the ladder. And think about how much we suffer when we get to the angry state. Anger devolves into delusion. When someone is terribly angry, when I say someone, we should put ourselves in that position. Road rage. When we're driving and someone starts flashing us from behind, we don't know who's in that car. We're never going to see that person ever again. But doesn't our heartbeat increase? Doesn't our breathing increase? I'll slowly tap my brakes so they know that I'm crazy and I may stop and, stop and they may hit me. Or I start racing ahead, totally unaware that there may be police or other people around me. We become deluded. How many stories we've heard of people who've gotten into fights and the repercussions that come from those fights? Because that anger, I am lost. And we're not done yet. It's so scary. I'm only on the 5th step. It's like a horror movie. Delusion then devolves into being amnesic. Amnesic is suffering from amnesia. So in delusion, I'm lost. Amnesia is a further degree of that, where I don't even know who I am. Have any of you ever suffered from amnesia? Short-term, long-term? We always do during discourses. I can say the same latter fall in January. Oh, wonderful. Great lecture, very original. A couple of years ago when I had taken a group of our young adults to Bharat for our Chinmay Inspiration Yatra, we were at the Global Chick Camp in Coimbatore. And there were some team building exercises that were going on. And one of our chicks, he had fallen from a small height. It wasn't from a high height, maybe even half of this table. So we all hit our heads when we stand up or we move left or right. And he hit his head in such a way that he experienced short-term amnesia. When I was doing something else and they called me, some of the organizers, and said, he's suffering right now. Because he didn't know. He didn't know who he was. He didn't know where he was. And it was amazing when he saw me, he prostrated. But then another person came and he said, do I know you? And these are people we've been traveling with for 15 days. And he was saying, do I know you? He was so frightened. His family was so frightened. We were all so frightened. Right? But we knew that he was going to come out of it. It's not anything permanent. But for you and I, sometimes when we get into this amnesia, we don't know when that amnesia will end. For him, that was a one-time incident. You and I don't meet a lot of people in fully medical amnesia, but we go through this. What was the first rung that we fall to? First, you already gone, amnesia. Distraction. Second rung, attachment. Third rung, desire. Fourth rung, fifth rung, delusion. Sixth rung, how many more rungs to go? Two more. Seventh rung is to be devolved. See, you and I are human beings right now, or we look like human beings right now. We devolve into animals then. What separates an animal from me, and you obviously, is the intellect. An animal lives by instinct. You and I live by intelligence. What is intelligence? Using an intellect. When an animal is hungry, it will eat. When an animal is not hungry, it will not. When you and I are hungry, we will maybe, maybe not eat. When we're not hungry, we will maybe not eat. We have a choice in all of this. Animals don't. An animal, if it's a carnivore, will only eat meat. If you and I are carnivores, we may eat vegetables sometimes, we may eat meat sometimes, etc., etc. If we don't use this intellect, then we are not different than animals. Actually, we become inefficient animals. I had once heard someone who said, we've evolved from the monkeys and the monkeys were insulted. Because they can run more, they can jump more, and so on and so forth. If I think like them, their bodies are stronger, they're more efficient than I am. So in this state of being devolved, one forgets their purpose. Our purpose is to find God. Our purpose is to be independently joyous, etc., etc. But if I have this human body but don't use my intellect, I can't. Devolved. And the last rung after being devolved is annihilation. That I have destroyed myself. Not physically, though physically most likely that has happened too. But this opportunity to be enlightened, which only human beings have. I was explaining this, I think, at the retreat. Devatas cannot be enlightened. Animals cannot be enlightened. Only human beings can be enlightened. Animals and devatas are called bhoga yonis. Bhoga means they just exhaust, they just clear. So animals exhaust their negative karmas and they become humans. Devatas exhaust their positive karmas and they become humans. So both are going towards the middle of this graph. One is getting a raise, one went on vacation but ran out of money. So both have to end up at work there. And humans, we're called yoga yonis. As yoga yonis, we can go down, we can go up, and most importantly, we can come off the graph. Meaning we can get off this game that we're playing right now. So I have an opportunity to be enlightened, and if I don't pursue that opportunity, I have committed suicide. Adi Shankaracharya is very clear about this in Viveka Chudamani, that if one does not pursue enlightenment in this form, they've committed suicide. Now this, if we did this, it would be even more extreme. Why? Because we have some virtues. We have some knowledge of the scriptures. We have some access to the Guru Parampara. So we have more opportunity, but wasted. If someone has no opportunity and they don't do anything, we say fine. But if someone has great opportunity, but they don't make use of that, why did they do that? What a waste. 8 rungs. Now I'm going to say them again, but I'm going to present them with different words for us to remember. Do you all watch Simpsons? You obviously don't, but do you know what the Simpsons are? Can you spell the Simpsons? Sir Homer, whenever he makes mistakes, he says dough, right? He says dough, D-O-H. I want you to remember duh. You know, people say duh, like you should already know that. So this ladder of fall is actually 4 does. So Sanskrit people, yeah, duh, we know duh. Ready? Distraction, attachment. Let me rewind. I am being distracted. I am being attached. I am being desirous. I am being angry. I am being deluded. I am being amnesic. I am being devolved. I am being annihilated. Duh, 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 duh. And it ends like that. Remember these 8 rungs this way. I'm going to present it in one more way so that this is truly in our heart. When we were studying Bhajagovinda, and Pujya Swami Tejamananda said, if you see a beautiful person, fine. But if you look again, not fine. See, if I'm walking down in a mall, or I'm driving and I look next to me and there's a beautiful person to me, I can't stop my eyes from seeing them. But if I look for, but then look again, then the problem begins. So think, okay? I see a beautiful person next to me. I'm driving, I look at this person, I look over here, now I look back, distracted. I'm supposed to be driving, but I'm looking over here. Next, attached. I think this person will make me happy. I'd like to meet this person. Desire, I'm going to follow this person now, because this person is going to bring me happy. But they have a better car than me, so they leave, right? So anger. So now they're not with me. Then deluded. Oh, I should find another person like this. Leads to amnesia. I'm supposed to be driving. I'm supposed to be going to work or whatever it is. I get into being devolved. I become a dangerous driver. And finally, annihilation. That opportunity is not there anymore. Lord Krishna tells Prince Arjuna, you are acting very un-Aryan-like. He uses in Sanskrit, it's un-Aryan, but in English, un-Aryan. What does Aryan mean? It means noble, it means pure-blooded, etc., etc. What it truly means is someone who is a master of circumstances. And until this battle, Prince Arjuna was the master of circumstances. Wherever he went, he made sure matters were in order. But here, he was acting very un-Aryan-like. And it wasn't because of his external capabilities. He was the best. He could shoot with his left arm, he could shoot with his eyes closed, he could shoot even if he had no bow and arrow, just by thinking he could do it. He was the best. But inside, he began falling. And as soon as one starts falling, their potential begins to fall too. Just like one's blood pressure. If it begins to fall, then the body's resistance to whatever, it becomes lesser. All of this is simply a play of thoughts. The most powerful and the most creative and destructive entity in this universe is a thought. Before this ashram was built, it started with a thought, correct? Before they implode hotels in Las Vegas, that also begins with a thought, that destruction. If someone didn't think it, it won't happen. But if someone did think it, the potential for that to happen is there. Simply thoughts. Today I was relentless on email. I don't get a lot of opportunities where I can sit on email for 8 hours. And I was relentless. And then I sat down to read Art of Man Making and make some notes. And I was watching my mind just be so distracted. Because in email, you're firing so many emails, so many things are happening. Now Gmail lets you open so many windows, you can write so many emails at once. And I was shocked. I was watching my mind say, hey, you don't even know how to study anymore, at least in that moment. Because the mind is just the thoughts were so rapid. When you tell the mind to slow down and study, it can't. This is why people have the best sleep when they're trying to contemplate. They have the best sleep in this room. Because here, we're being trained to, remember we did that exercise at the retreat. And I told everyone to close their eyes and listen. And then I asked, how many of you were sleeping? And though 1/4 put their hands up, I can sense half of the people are sleeping. You don't listen to a lecture like this. We're training ourselves to slow down the thoughts so that we can focus on that subject. Hence so many proverbs that say, idle mind is a devil's workshop. As you think, so you become, etc., etc. This is simply a play of thoughts. Do you all know who Roger Bannister is? A few people know who Roger Bannister is. He is the person who invented insulin. He's a Canadian who invented insulin in the late 1800s. I'm lying to you right now, and you wouldn't even know. You wouldn't even know that. Roger Bannister is the first person to run the 4-minute mile. But now you're thinking, how do we know you're not lying? So obviously your answer to that is Google it, right? Google is a verb now. I know you've heard this joke before. In a Tamil movie, this villain and this hero are getting into an argument with each other. And this villain says to the hero, I'm going to hit you so hard that even Google will be able to find you. Anyways, Roger Bannister really is the first person to run the 4-minute mile. And after he did it, many people within weeks were able to run the 4-minute mile. Was it a different shoe that they created? Was it a different training program that they created? All that happened was Roger Bannister believed he could run the 4-minute mile, meaning inside his software said you can do it, and he did it. And through him, many people's software changed too, and they could do it. We should not think that his body propelled him faster. His mind propelled him faster. For us, we are the ones who empower our thoughts. In contemplation, the first challenge we face is sleep. What is the second challenge? Body pains. We always start with as an exclamation mark, right? Time for contemplation. And I look like Buddha. They should take a picture of me and put me on a wallpaper. But then if they took a picture 5 minutes later, it's slowly like a time-lapse camera. And I turn into a question mark. But it doesn't need a time-lapse camera. This will happen in 2 minutes. Like that quickly, we can go through this. And then my knees hurt. Then my back, I just want to scratch my back. And my neck has this, this sore there. The thoughts will come. But why do we have to possess the thought? Why do we have to be possessed by the thought? See that scratch your knee thought? It comes. No, it comes for everyone. But some of us possess the thought, and then we're possessed by the thought. Instead of contemplating on Bhagavan Krishna, I'm contemplating, I can't wait for this to be over so I can scratch my knee. It's going to be the best scratch ever. It's like a reward for me. See how it's totally changed because I'm possessed the thought, and so I'm possessed by the thought. This is why we're encouraged to just watch. The thought will come. Let it come, let it go. But we empower those thoughts, and so they become heavy on our personalities. I had finished a discourse at a university in Toronto and had gone to a friend's reception. And lots of our family friends and mission members, lots of people were there. And because I came late because of the discourse, and I found where I was sitting, and there was a group of gentlemen who were sitting at one table, and the speeches were going on, so I just went like this. I bowed down like this, and I just went like this, quick Hari Om to everyone. And then I sat down and was quiet. The next day I found out that one of those gentlemen started talking to everyone at that table saying he never said Hari Om to me. And started saying, what does he have against me, and so on and so forth. See, same sweep of the Hari Om. Like if I went like this, Hari Om, and then if I didn't make eye contact with me. See, this gentleman was empowering that thought that I insulted him. Sure, the thought came in that I insulted him. Whatever, that thought came in. But now he has a choice. Hold on to the thought or let go of the thought. He held on to it. He suffered. Began the ladder fall. He told the next person, if they held on to the thought, they suffered. See, and how did this all begin? With this gentleman's thoughts. And we all experience this. What about forgiveness? We find it so difficult to forgive people. It's a beautiful word. What is the Sanskrit word for forgiveness? Kshanti. Kshanti, wherever there's kshanti, there has to be shanti. See the play of words. Forgiveness is forgiving. And where is forgiveness? It's not external, it is internal. The way that Swami Chinmayananda presents this, when I'm breathing, when I extract that oxygen, then that toxic waste goes back into my blood, and then I have to exhale that, and it should all be filtered through my intestine, etc., etc. I'm pretending like I know what I'm talking about right now. But if my blood holds those impurities, I begin the decay process, and eventually I will die then. Right? So my body automatically, as long as it's healthy, will filter all of that and keep me going. Now with the mind, it's choice-based. We should pray for God's grace that you filter out these impurities and keep my mind healthy. But he's saying, hey, you're a big boy, you're a big girl. Do it yourself. Grow up. And you filter out those impurities. Otherwise, you will suffer, you will be in a state of decay, and you will die, and you will cause other people to as well. This world and all of the circumstances and beings and articles are not a problem. Remember I said about the Upanishads, we think Upanishads is studying somewhere else. We feel the world is a problem, and so we try to escape from the world, isn't it? Sick days, that's escapism. Going late to work, that's escapism. Missing Balavihar, that's escapism. Sleeping in, that's escapism. Etc., etc., etc. We all have our own forms of escapism. The world is not a problem. It is our contact with the world that is the problem. And in Vedanta, as students of Vedanta, one message we have to be very clear about, there are no, what is the last word I'm going to put there? There are no, everyone saying, there are no happiness, there are no joy, there are no fun, there are no excuses. At the 2010 Mahasamadhi camp, it was in Los Angeles, a few of you were there. And I realized that our young adults don't have a study group in Los Angeles. And this is one of the biggest cities in North America. Hey, what's happening over here? How come you don't have a young adult study group? We have small cities with young adult study groups. And they took the message to heart. And so that following week, they created a study group. It was called NESG. What does it stand for? No Excuses Study Group. It doesn't matter what's happening, no excuses study group. In Vedanta, there is no excuse. And it's a great trick that we play on ourselves. You know, as we went down this ladder of fall and we put in desire in there and anger and so on and so forth, some people love to be angry. They glorify their anger. You know, I'm such an angry person. And they're proud of it. So they'll never get over it. Where did I meet? Oh yeah, I met one person, and he always came late to our discussion. Sometimes half an hour, sometimes 15 minutes. And so many times I had to have one-on-one discussions with him. You can't come late for your benefit and for everyone else's benefit. What was his explanation? This is just who I am. I just come late. Right? He's patting himself on the back. He's special and nobody else is. All right. Here's what we've discussed so far. We talked about our enemies not living outside, but our enemies living inside. And we're trying to understand our enemies through this presentation of the ladder of fall. These ladder of falls is about duh. How many does? 4 does. And each one gets louder. See, being distracted is one thing. Being devolved is a totally different matter. The first duh is, I am being attached. No, I got that. I said duh, not D. Second duh, I am being desirous. I am being angry. Third duh, I am being delusional. I'm being deluded. I am being amnesia. And the fourth duh, I am being devolved. I am being annihilated. And this ladder fall is simply a play of the thoughts. Enemies are inside. We're studying the ladder of fall. 4 does is simply thoughts. There are 2 types of medicine where we can invest our money. There is reactive medicine and there is preventative medicine. Proactive medicine, preventative medicine. What to do about this ladder of fall? We are going to focus on prevention first, okay? I'm going to give you 3 tangible practices, 3 sadhanas, from highest to lowest, on being proactive, so as not to get onto this ladder. First step, observe. Watch the thoughts instead of owning the thoughts. When we go about our day-to-day affairs and we find that the distraction is coming in or whatever's coming in, just watch. In chapter 9 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, what is the famous message that Lord Krishna says? They are in me, I am not in them. What is he saying? The thoughts are in me, I am not in them. Don't tell God how big your problems are. Tell your problems how big your God is. Don't tell Bhagavan, oh, I have so many thoughts. Tell those thoughts that you are Bhagavan. Be the Sakshi. Watch. When we sit on a busy intersection, and people are fascinated by watching traffic, or if you go to a train station in India, you see so much is happening at the airport. So much is happening. We don't get on every train, do we? We don't get in every car. We simply watch. Be the observer of one's thoughts. Now, is it easier to observe one's thoughts in health, in good health, or in bad health? Good health. Is it easier to go to the gym when I'm healthy or unhealthy? When I'm healthy. So let us learn to watch our thoughts when the mind is calm, so that we get into the tendency when the mind is not calm, I can still watch the thoughts. Practice being the observer. And it's not that tricky. The same way that if you continuously watch the hand, or as the hand is writing, imagine you have 2 personalities. One personality is watching the second personality actually engage in whatever. Be the Sakshi. This is at a high level, how to be proactive to not get onto this ladder. The second, this is mid-level strategy to not get onto this ladder. What is the simplest way to attain enlightenment today? Simplest way to attain enlightenment. Call India, order a yantra, $500, correct? Put it under your pillow and be free. The simplest way, according to Srimad Bhagavatam. So here's your test. You studied Srimad Bhagavatam for 1 week. Amnesic. Tulsi Ramayana. You studied that too. You studied Sundarkand a few years ago when Guruji was here. The simplest way to attain enlightenment is japa. Janma pati iti japa. That which protects me from being reborn is japa. When I chant Om Namah Shivaya, when I chant Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram, what I chant is not the focus. My thoughts, 3 changes are taking place, okay? The first is I'm raising the quality of the thoughts. Right now my thoughts could be on, you know that soup that was made? So it should be more spicy. That's it. Or tomorrow morning I have to get up and drive at 4 a.m. Well, I'm going to be so tired, right? The mind is thinking about the world, so I become worldly. But if I now chant in my mind or externally, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, I've raised the quality of my thoughts. Number 2, and it happens in sequence, I reduce the quantity of my thoughts. See, if I think about the soup, then I think about how it should be more spicy. Yeah, in South India, they eat a lot of spicy food. I can't wait to go to South India. Oh yeah, South India, that's where this Alapi is. Oh, the houseboat. I should go on the houseboat afterwards too. See all the quantity of thoughts that I have. And it all started with soup. And I ended up in Alapi, in the middle of India, on a houseboat by myself. But with Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, I reduced the quantity of thoughts. So I raise the quality, reduce the quantity, and then I change the direction. And all of this happens simply by practicing japa. Now, if you can't practice japa, for everyone who can practice japa, keep your hands down. Oh, that's all of us. What qualifications are needed to call out to the Lord? This last month I got to meet many infants. A lot of our chicks are getting married and now they're having children of their own. And when an infant is in a crib and they've just woken up and they reorient themselves to their environment, then they stand up, they hold on to those bars of their crib, which is a jail for them. They hold on to those bars. And then they hold on to the top, and now they orient themselves with their room. And then after they've woken up, either they're a little bit messy or they're a little bit hungry. And they want to communicate with that, but they don't have the mental or the physical capability to do that. So what do? They cry. What qualifications do you need to cry? Some of us are thinking, we're expert criers. We know we don't need any qualifications. No qualifications are needed to cry. In the same way, there are no qualifications needed to call out to the Lord. No qualifications are needed to cry out to the Lord. Our teachers were given an assignment yesterday. They were given 5 minutes to come up with a lesson plan to teach surrender. And we think of surrender as being a passive sentiment. It is actually an active sentiment that I can't do this, but you can. You created this Maya. You said this Maya is difficult. So you cross me over. I can't. Practice japa. Someone had asked Puja Swami Tejamananda for sadhana. What sadhana can I do? What can I do to get to my destination of joy? So he gave them a sadhana and they said, oh, it's too hard, it's too complicated. He said, okay, do japa. Oh, it's too simple, it's too easy. See, excuses not to do japa. When I travel to different places, if it's more than 6 hours, then I fly. If it's within 6 hours, I drive. And how this works is I drive to one of our mission members' homes in Buffalo. I leave my car there, our mission car. Then they drive me to the airport. Then they pick me up and I go to their house and I drive back to Niagara. When they're not there, then I take a taxi from their home to the airport. So one day they weren't there, and I called a taxi, and I sat, it was in a Crown Victoria. And the gear shift is up here, it's not down here like many cars now. So as soon as I said, take me to the airport, he puts it in drive, and in the same motion, he pulls off the mala from that gear shift, and he starts doing his japa. And I thought, hey, this person has to drive 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours, who knows? And instead of making this a mundane activity, which driving for 8 hours tends to become mundane, he turned it into a mystical activity. He turned this into sadhana. And you're thinking, but shouldn't we be focused when we're driving? Do we really focus when we drive? Let's be honest with ourselves. So if we're going to be distracted, at least let us be distracted with God. If we're going to get into a car accident, at least let it be for God. If we're going to die, at least japa is happening. We'll get enlightened. This japa can be done by everyone, always. So to be proactive, to not get onto this ladder, what was the first sadhana that I had given? We should observe. Observe the thoughts. Number 2, be a japis. Do japa. Number 3, be responsible. When you and I engage in our responsibilities, let me rewind. With guardrails, see, the roads of America are wonderful. I wrote an e-vichar about this a while back. After our Pittsburgh camp, then I drove down to Baltimore. And the roads of America are wonderful because if you veer off the road, there's rumble strips there to wake you up. Even before that, there's those flashing things that your lights hit it and it shines. Then the rumble strips, then there's a guardrail. So it's quite hard to get off this path. If you and I engage in our responsibilities, it's like a guardrail. That I have to go to work, so Monday morning, instead of calling in sick, I'm going to go to work. I have to look after my children, so I have to look after my health, I have to earn a decent amount of money. I have to ensure that they have good food, whatever it is. I don't let my mind get onto this distracted mode by following one's responsibilities. We call this uparana. In Tattva Bodha, when one practices uparana, then the mind is within the direction they're taking it. And at a higher philosophical level, the first step towards sannyasa, and I don't mean external sannyasa, I mean internal sannyasa, is to let go of likes and dislikes. Likes and dislikes are just a distraction. Many of you have younger kids, younger grandchildren. What is the first area where likes and dislikes can grow for an infant or a child? Food. They can't choose their diapers, or their clothing, or their room, or their brother and sister, but they can tell their parents, I like this food or I don't like this food, either verbally or through their actions. And surely every person should have creative freedom, but if too much freedom is given, if they develop likes and dislikes with food, that will then grow to their clothing, to their room, to their brother and sister. Then I want a different brother, I want a different sister. So we should limit those likes and dislikes when it comes to food for a child, not even for a child, for you and I too. When we were studying in the ashram, and one of our senior acharyas told us, I don't know how the discussion came up about onions and garlic and various matters like that. And he had said, you're all brahmacharis, you eat what's given to you. That is the principle of being a sadhu, essentially. That whatever the world gives to you, you accept cheerfully. If there's not enough salt, good. If there's too much salt, good. Being responsible prevents us from getting onto that ladder. Now, that's proactive. That's theory for us. And we want to focus on reactive. Vivek, tell us what we can do where we are right now. Highest to lowest. When we go to distractions, if you're at the gym and you had a late night last night and you're supposed to be working out biceps, one of the hardest muscles to work out, okay, and you're at the gym, but you're really tired or you're not feeling well, what are our two options? Go home and sleep, or option number 2, use the elliptical, go for a walk, correct? See, if I use if I do my arm curls, I'm going to be frustrated, I'm going to be distracted, eventually I'm just not going to do anything. But if I go for a walk or use the elliptical, it's less demanding, so I'm still doing my exercise, but it's of a lesser intensity. So if we're on this ladder, okay, first thing is distraction. Let me lessen the opportunity for the mind to be distracted. Then I don't fall down further. If we use that that shopping example, fine, I'm looking at this store, let me daydream there for some time and then go back to my walk then. Or let me walk outside. So lessen those distractions. The second, okay, so I'm on rung 1 and I've fallen. So I've fallen down to the rung 1. Now I'm at rung 2. What do I do about attachment? I'm there. Now what do I do to prevent myself from falling further? Is to think about the defects that come with articles, that come with beings and circumstances, but specifically articles. See, I see this new phone, I see this new purse, and I think this is going to make me happy. But if I think, if I reflect, if I go back into my history, that last purse I bought I thought was going to make me happy too, but here I am thinking about this purse. And this happened 50 times in my life. So why do I think this is going to make me happy? That first rasmalai I ate made me happy. The second rasmalai made me less happy. Do I think the third one's going to go back to happiness? If this phone made everyone happy, then why are people buying Samsung phones? Why are people buying Android phones and other phones? If this is the only phone that's going to make one happy. By thinking about the defects, we prevent ourselves from getting attached. So if the mind is distracted, what to do? Lessen the distraction. If the mind is attached, what to do? Think about the defects associated with those attachments. What Pujya Swami Chinmayananda writes in Vivekachudamani about this human body, when I see a beautiful person, the tamasic mind would be, I want to enjoy that person. This is a general message, okay? The rajasic mind would be, I would like for that person to be my spouse. The sattvic mind is, that person is my mother, my father, my brother, my sister. The beyond the gunas mind is, that is me. See how the same body, but the relationship is so different. And he, again, thinking about the defects, is that person just for enjoyment? When that person is me. And he also says, if you take this body and you break it down into its components. See, now all of the medical students and the physicians will be more clear about this. What is this body made of? 1 bucket of marrow, 1 bucket of bones, 1 bucket of flesh, 1 bucket of veins and arteries, a few buckets of blood, a full bucket of skin. Some of us have a full bucket of hair, some of us have a half bucket of hair. And that's it. And if we had these buckets on stage right now, it would be disgusting. Even if you find someone's cut nail in the bathroom, even if it's your own spouse's nail and you see it there, how disgusting it is. But imagine seeing a bucket of this. But if you mix it all together, all of a sudden it's beautiful. So thinking about the defects of these attachments. And if we get to the third rung, that is desire, how to cure or this reactive medicine to desire is what we should be doing on November 25th, I believe. What is on November 25th? Thanksgiving. Black Friday. Thanksgiving. It is a day to give thanks. Now, whom should I give thanks to? What should I give thanks to? How about the sun? If the sun is a little bit too far, we all freeze. If the sun is a little bit too close, we all burn. How about sanitation engineers? People who pick up garbage. Haven't we been to nations where they just throw the garbage outside? What happens then? Pests, stink, it's ugly. We should be thankful to our parents. They taught us values, they taught us how to cook, they taught us how to clean. We have so much to be thankful for. In other words, being grateful. We have a bank in Canada called Scotiabank, and their motto is, you're richer than you think. And the idea behind there is that we keep focusing on how much money we owe, but this bank is trying to change that to say, look at how much you have. And for us too, that's a wonderful slogan to think that we are far richer than we think we are. We tend to associate richness with a number, but richness is not standard of living, it is standard of life. Standard of life is how much peace I have in my heart. Being grateful. Then when I'm having this desire for a purse, for a phone, for a vacation, for another person, if I think about how wonderful my spouse is, if I think about how wonderful my children are, that God has given me all of these gifts, why would I think about another family? Why would I compare another family? If I'm happy with what I'm eating, why would I look at your plate then? So being grateful. So if I'm on this, it prevents me from falling more. Now, if we get past 3, then just pray, because it's hard to get back up then. A gauge for one's spiritual growth is how much one can rebound. See, many of us have been studying Vedanta since Pujya Gurudev Swami Chinmayananda first came to this city. Decades. Today I was talking to some people who have met Gurudev and Swami Shantananda, etc. for decades. Or in India. Some of you have been introduced to Vedanta in India, even before you came here. We've heard all of this. I'll tell you every time I see you, I am not a teacher. If I use the word teacher, it's only for a communication tool. I simply remind people of what they already know. You didn't know all of this. You already knew all of this. All I did was remind us of this and present it in a different way. We will fail 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times, in our lifetime, 1,000,000,000,000 times in our lifetimes. But as we continue to fall, we should get faster and faster and faster at getting up. If this gentleman and I get into an argument, and I come back in January, and then now I'm at peace with him. It took me 2 months to get it peaceful with him. But then I see him in January and I get mad again, get mad at him again. But then we meet in February and I'm over it. I'm a better person for that because before it took me 2 months to get over that anger. Now it's taking me 1 month. The next time we meet, it'll take 2 weeks. And I will grow like that. With an objective science, how difficult it is for a child to walk. How many times they fall and hurt themselves. And then we look at them and they start crying, because if we didn't look at them, they wouldn't start crying. How many times our handwriting has been corrected? For people who never learned how to type, how many times your kids made fun of you for typing like this? Right? But slowly, those failures led to successes. And that's outside. How much more will be required to change inside? If I want to clean my hands, I just have to walk to the bathroom and soap it up and wash it. If I want to clean my mind, oh. And we all know this. So we will keep failing, keep trying. Rebound. Pujaswami Chimananda says, be a rubber ball, not a steel ball. If I drop a steel ball down these stairs, it will fall down faster. The rubber ball will fall up faster then. That is a gauge of our development. Fair? Okay. We now have a few minutes. If any of you have any questions, then I think there were some sheets of paper that were, yes, so these sheets are being distributed. If you have any questions, if you don't have any questions, that's cool too. So every time that I'm here, instead of us having to distribute paper, you please bring your questions, okay? When I go to some people's homes and they have younger children there, then the parents will say, okay, sing, dance, ask them a question which you had, like I'm some sort of entertainer or the kids are some sort of entertainers. It should be natural. So if you have any questions that are on your mind related to this, you can ask right now. If not, then if you have questions and I'm here next time, then just leave your questions here and I can try to answer them. I'd like to dedicate some time each time we meet to questions and answers, because that's how this tradition continues. It's samvada. Arjuna was allowed to, he was encouraged to ask questions. Unlike many other traditions and faiths where you believe it or you get out, here that's not the case at all. The idea is to believe what's being shared, but you have to believe it. See, what I've shared right now are my ideas. And my ideas can be easily discarded. But if they become your ideas, then they're not easily discarded. Trying to lose weight for someone else versus really trying to lose weight for oneself is a very different experience. If I really am in tune with myself and wanting to be healthy, I'll keep that weight off in the long term. But if I'm trying to lose weight for a party, my high school reunion, or whatever it is, as soon as it's over, what am I going to do? Go back. It's temporary. Any questions? Okay. Here are some questions that were asked of me previously. I'll read them, and in the meantime, you can still write. What causes anger, desire, attachment? And how to manage them. So this was the majority of what was shared today. What causes anger? The step before that, desire. What causes desire? Attachment. What causes detachment? Distraction. Unconscious thinking. Thinking is of 2 degrees, unconscious and conscious. If we're in tune with what we're doing right now, Shravanam, that's conscious thinking. But if I'm over here and I'm thinking about, like I said, Kerala, because I went from soup to Kerala, that's unconscious thinking. When my wife and I drive together and someone makes a mistake driving, meaning, and obviously everyone else makes mistakes. I never make mistakes when I drive. We all like to think that. So I tell them, I talk to myself and I say, hey, go, come on, it's a green light, or move. And she's like, they can't hear you. Right? I just have this dialogue. The mind is just talking and talking and talking. So that's what it means by unconscious thinking. How just getting one's foot in the door slowly kicks that door wide open. That's why we spend a lot of time being vigilant to not get onto the ladder. And if we find ourselves on the ladder, get up as fast as possible. How to manage them? Here's your review. Preventative. What was the first step in preventative medicine towards this lateral fall? Be an observer. Number 2, be a judgist. I don't know if that's a real word, but now it is. Number 3, be responsible. Reactive. Number 1, if I'm distracted, what should I do? Lessen the distraction. Lessen, not O. Number 2, if I'm suffering from attachment, what should I do? Think about the defects of those attachments. And number 3, if I'm suffering from desire, what to do? Practice. Yeah, be grateful. Practice contentment. What matters? Intelligence or behavior to proceed with life? Intelligence should translate into behavior. If I'm a very intelligent person, but I don't do anything about it, it's just information, it's not intelligence. Intelligence means acting on it. Whereas if it's just behavior, I just do, but I don't think about it, that's also not a right way to live. There has to be thinking and there has to be doing. Now, out of the two, if, for the sake of the question, if one is to choose one of these, intelligence. It is better not to speak than to speak and sound like an idiot, right? Our Balavar teachers, I often encourage them, if you don't know the answer, tell them you don't know. But if you make up something and they find out or they know the answer and you made this up, it's hard to build faith, but to break it down, easy. That's why I took back my comment about Roger Bannister, okay? That was just a joke. Why is there a lack of coherence between intelligence and behavior? Why is there a lack of connection between intelligence and behavior? It requires courage to live up to one's beliefs. When I talk about honesty, what comes to our mind? Just verbal honesty, right? But real honesty is living up to one's beliefs. That if I believe this is wrong, only I can gauge that. You can't. You don't know what my beliefs are. If I tell you that I was in Seattle yesterday, you can easily check if I was in Seattle or not, and you know if I'm lying or not. But if I think sleeping for 10 hours is wrong, but I do it, you're unable to gauge that. So the only person who knows whether I'm being honest or not is me. And living up to my beliefs, that requires courage. I keep putting the onus on you instead of putting the onus on myself. And it's presented in two ways. Remember, I said whenever we are angry or something wrong has happened, we tend to blame anyone outside. The gas station attendant, the weather, the God, whatever it is. But in Vedanta, there are no what? Excuses. So, it's twofold, this honesty, this courage to live up to this is, I put the onus on you. The second is, when I am constantly reminded, I need you to remind me to be honest, it makes me weak. Let me share this again. With a child, if we keep reminding them to make their bed, we're actually teaching them to forget. Because they'll expect you to keep telling them again and again and again make your bed, make your bed, make your bed. With the spouse too, keep reminding them, put the toothpaste cap on, put the toothpaste cap on, put the toothpaste cap on, don't drive so fast, don't drive so fast. Then they're actually being taught to forget. I have to stop depending on you, and I have to start depending on me. It requires courage to live up to one's beliefs. And though you and I have the potential for courage, we have the potential for everything. The more that I study our scriptures, the more I realize how much we can do for ourselves in the world, how much one being can do for themselves in the world, and how little we are actually accessing that. So it requires that courage, and to bring this cohesion between intelligence and behavior, one has to try. Just like a child, if they don't try to walk, they'll never learn. But they keep trying. And so they slowly learn. Like typing, like driving, like cooking. Try. And we will begin to live up to our intelligence. To get a dream job, do you focus on intelligence or skill or behavior? Intelligence or skill or behavior? We all know that all three are required. To get enlightened, do I just have to do karma? I have to do karma and bhakti and jnana. But for the sake of an answer, out of these three, what I would think is the most important? Behavior. What is the most important department in a corporation? HR. Human resources is the most important position. Going to work is not difficult. The work itself is not difficult. What is difficult? The people at work. Coming here is easy, but being with the people here is difficult. And this is relatively easier. But our challenges as volunteers is being with people. I was just telling some people, some of my favorite times are when I'm flying and when I'm driving. Because it's the only time I'm alone. There's no one to fight with and no one to fight with me. Is when I'm alone. So behavior, if someone can be good with people, they can get other people's intelligence, they can get other people's skills and put them together. Swami Chinmayananda, Puja Swami Chinmayananda was the best at this. He knew what people were good at what and made them do that. And Puja Swami Tejamayana has followed perfectly in that suit. He knows people who should write, people who should build, people who should donate, people who should teach, people who should not teach. He knows about all of this. And he can do it all, but he has a potential to do it all, but he's giving us that opportunity as well. I was staying at one family's home, and this boy in grade 2, he's in the Hanuman the Superman class. And he had asked his mother, and his mother had told me, he had told his mother that it seems like Lord Rama was really lazy because he made Hanumanji do all the work. Lord Rama was giving him the opportunities to do that work, like Lord Rama couldn't have done it himself. I read another beautiful message related to this. So Lord Rama was watching everyone put these boulders and trees and pebbles into this ocean to get to Lanka, to build Ram Setu. So he was watching all of this, and he wanted to see how this worked. So he picked up a rock, and he wrote Ram on it too. That's what everyone was doing. And he put it into the water, and it sunk straight to the ground. And he was shocked by this. Now, who was watching Lord Rama? Hanumanji. Hanumanji's always watching Lord Rama, with his eyes or with his mind. And he says, he tells Lord Rama, you're confused about what just happened. And he says, yeah, how come it works for you but not for me? And he said, and Hanumanji says to Lord Rama, because anything you let go of will fall. Right? Anything that Lord Rama lets go of will fall. So what should we do? Hold on to Lord Rama. Then we will never fall. So behavior, going back to my point, is that if someone can manage people well, they can manage people's intelligence, they can manage people's skills. One of our new Balavira teachers, you'll hear about this on Sunday, but I'm just giving you a sneak preview, that we're starting a satellite center. Some of you know this already. So we're having new Balavira teachers at this satellite center. Half of the team will be new. And naturally, he was intimidated and said, what if I don't know what the scriptures are teaching? And I said, do you think I know what the scriptures teach? No one here knows what the scriptures teach. We can keep trying to understand, but even to say that we know one drop of this ocean is wrong, because this is not even a physical ocean, this is an infinite ocean. You either know all of it or you know none of it, essentially. And I shared with them that it's not about being the most knowledgeable, it is about being most loving. If you can love those students, if you can love their parents, if you can love the sevaks and sevikas, you'll do fine. And even if you have all of the knowledge of the scriptures but you're not loving, you will be a terrible teacher then. And you will have a terrible experience. Like parenting. Did you all read parenting books when you had kids? I'm sure you read some of it. Are you following it exactly? This is where Puja Swami Tejamananda shares. Before parents have children, they have many theories on raising children and no children. When they have children, they have many children but no theories on raising children. Because one can't, there are no rules. I had to ask one of our chicks, I said, what has been the greatest message you've learned as a mother? And she simply said, there are no rules. You just keep learning on the go, and not in an ignorant kind of way, but in an active kind of way. You keep learning, you keep learning, you keep learning. So learning to manage people. One of Hanumanji's, do you have any questions now, where I'm still in entertainment mode right now? Okay. It's not a controversial question, right? This is all being recorded. Okay, go ahead.
You had mentioned two methods on kind of working through distractions.
Mm.
And I look at them as distractions in essence, right? Japa, or going through life in such a way that you have no time to think, right?
Sure.
And I get that, to avoid thinking about bad things. But how do you get the time to reach a like fulfillment or knowledge if you just go through an activity, keep your mind busy so you can't learn? Does that make sense?
Yes and no. I understand the question. The question is, let me be clear if I've understood the question, that if we want to inhibit distractions, so we engage in japa and we get engaged in our responsibilities, etc., where is the time to think and learn and acquire knowledge? Is this the question? Okay. As a physician, you being a physician, if someone is an alcoholic, you can't tell them right away to stop drinking. That will be a joke. So you tell them drink less harmful substances, and you slowly wean them off that substance abuse. Am I correct to whatever abuse is taking place? But it can't be done like that. So the same way, you and I are intensely distracted in our present personalities. So the idea is to slowly reduce that distraction. Slowly. It really is not dependent on time, but we use time as a parameter, so let's continue with that parameter. We have to slowly make this change. And knowledge is most simple. This Vedantic knowledge is much simpler than being a parent, than being a professional, than being a sevika or sevika. I promise you that this is simpler than what is being taught at our universities. But the difference is, to understand this requires purity of mind. For this knowledge to enter in my personality, it needs to enter through a secret passage, essentially. And my mind has to be so pure that that passage is revealed. So by doing japa, by engaging in one's responsibilities, that purity of mind is developed. Then when any teacher comes and says, hey, you're Brahman, when you pick up any book and it says your nature is infinite, we will believe that completely in that moment. It's not like you haven't heard this already, as I keep mentioning. We all know that our nature is Brahman, our potential is infinite. But because we lack purity of mind, it gets rubbed onto our mind but then washed away. It's like writing on sand. The shore keeps washing it away. But when I engage in my responsibilities, when I engage in my japa, that sand turns into cement. Then if anything is written on cement, it doesn't change them. So this will happen naturally. Fine, there's the answer to the question. Now I'm going to add one more element to your question, even though you didn't ask it. We all have to make time for yoga. Not yogasana, I'm talking about self-development. This. We have to make time to ask ourselves if we're happy. We have to make time to study Bhagwan's features. We have to make time to do japa. We have to make time to read. We have to make time to reflect and write and so on. Time is not going to come. Haven't we thought about that? Haven't we tried that already? It's Deepavali. Now I'm going to be sattvic. Already 4 days have passed. Now I'll wait till next Deepavali to be sattvic. Time will not come. And as centuries pass, we live for another century, we will find that there's less time, not more. Remember the summer of 2013? Fastest summer ever for most of us. Faster than 2012. 2012 was faster than 2011. Next summer is going to be faster than 2013. That's the nature of time and the relationship with the mind. We have more distractions now than ever. Grandchildren that are growing up right now have more stuff to do than grandchildren 50 years ago. Right? Before, 50 years ago, few family members, few toys, etc. Now they have iPads, iPhones, they have electronic gadgets, specialty dolls, and so on and so forth. We have to make time, and to think that time will come is an excuse. Time will not come. I enjoy coming to Pittsburgh and leaving Pittsburgh because I said the driving part I get to reflect a lot. And I've been thinking about how much I give through email, how much I write, how much I read, etc. And often that takes me away from my specific sadhana. I know I don't do email for my own selfish reasons. I do it to share reflections and to guide people if needed. But it takes me away from my own study of Sanskrit, my own study of Ramayana, etc. I've made a decision in my mind that I will not come onto a computer till after I've done my sadhana, whatever may happen. Because for me itself, and this is all I do, time is not there unless I make that time. And you're all much busier than I am. So if I can't do it, I'm assuming that you can't do it, considering that you're busier than I am. So I'm encouraging all of us that Deepavali is just here. Let us make time for this, and let us start with 15 minutes. And as we experience the benefits, let it grow to 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 1 hour. If we can't give 1 hour to our body and mind, what kind of life is this? I think about this all the time. I tell Sheila about this all the time. And that's why I'm not preaching. I'm preaching to myself here. I tell her, what kind of life are we living that we can't give 1 hour to make this body strong, 1 hour to make this mind strong? How am I different than a robot? I'm a cyborg. I'm half human, half robot. And I think we can all relate to that. So make time. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. It's always an exciting time with Chinmaya Mission Pittsburgh, and now is an even more exciting time, at least for me, is that I've completed my 4 months of 3 days every month. I won't come to Pittsburgh next month because I'm going to India for almost the whole month, which is why I did 2 shifts in October. I didn't sell you short, I did 2 shifts in October. And beginning in the middle of January, I'll begin my 1 week every month to come to Pittsburgh. And that's why I said it's more exciting for me. And we have a dynamic schedule planned. I will be here on Sunday to do this session, our morning session for the adults. I will do our satellite center on Sunday for our adults. I will meet with our chicks regularly. We'll be doing 2 days of satsangs at different people's homes or in university or West Virginia, whatever it is. We will do 1 lecture here on Wednesdays. Then just yesterday, we finalized that we are starting our activities in Cleveland. So Cleveland will now be part of Chinmay Mission Pittsburgh's fold. So Friday during the day, we'll be doing a Devi group. Friday night, a discourse at the Shiva Vishnu Temple in Cleveland. Saturday morning, Balavihar. Saturday afternoon, meeting with the chicks. So lots of development that is taking place. So please participate in this, which you're all doing. I'm asking you to be involved in all of this too. Teach Balavihar here, teach Balavihar in South Hills. Come with me to Cleveland. Then we can sit silently together for 2 hours there and 2 hours back. And spread the word about this center and our satellite center in the South Hills and our satellite center in Cleveland. Everybody knows people in Cleveland. Everyone is always going to Cleveland. So let us share this inspiration. Joyous Diwali to all of you and joyous New Year as well. And we will see you on January 19th here, Sunday morning. You will begin before that, but that's when I will come. Thank you.
We'll get ready for the Aarti. So it's a Diwali, so anybody who wants to offer Guru Dakshina, please come forward to offer Guru Dakshina. We'll get ready. You can come as a family and do the Aarti, please.